I don't know what's more confusing, learning astrology or just being a human. Moonday Musings is here to help with that. A weekly, no bullshit guide for the upcoming cosmic forecast and how you can actually use this in your real life. Hello, neighbor. Happy Monday and happy Moonday, my friend. Welcome to another episode of Moonday Musings. If this is your first time here in our witchy little neighborhood, welcome. I'm Danny. I'm that witch next door. I'll be your host, your guide, your mentor, your spiritual bestie in all things modern witchcraft and cosmic living. And it is the last Moonday, the last Monday of June. And on the last Moonday of the month, we pause, we reflect, we look at what we have to be grateful for before we move into the next month ahead, which is going to be July 2025. We're on the back half of the year, and that is weird. That's super weird, but it is what it is. This is a great time to intentionally look back at the month of June 2025 for yourself. And because of this kind of halfway marker, this is a great time for looking back on this first half of the year, 2025. I want to preface this strongly by saying, I don't know if there's ever a year where halfway through, we're like, oh yeah, this is about what I was expecting. I'm exactly where I thought I was going to be in December when we were doing all of this 2025 year ahead projection kind of stuff for ourselves. It's like almost never, 99% of the time, we get to June, we get to July, and we're like, where the fuck has this year gone? / it's also felt super long at the same time. We usually can feel almost disoriented around this time. And so I really encourage this month for this reflection and gratitude to be a little bit extra understanding of yourself and to be a little bit extra gentle with yourself. I think it might be helpful to look back at any New Year's, end of the year of 2024 type stuff, journaling, brainstorming, goal setting, plans making, anything like that that you did at that time. I think it might be a good idea to take a look at that right now. But it's going to be really just distracting and harmful thing to do if you show up to that activity and just judge the living hell out of yourself. So do this with grace. Do this with understanding. Do this with some fluidity and flexibility and kind of try to take as neutral of a position as possible. And then intentionally look back. You can look back kind of twofold. Look back at this last month of June and then extend that. And maybe just keep flipping the pages of the journal until you get all the way back to December. Or keep scrolling through the gallery or the camera roll until you get to December. You know, keep flipping through the pages of the calendar or the planner after you look through June's pages. Keep going and look through all the way back until the end of 2024. If you keep any kind of like habit tracker for yourself or mood tracker, if you have like a smartwatch and it tracks and syncs any types of patterns for you, maybe go on and take a look at those over this last month and over these last 6 months, half a year. This is meant to give you helpful information for moving forward, for taking the next steps. Now that you have some hindsight that your December 2024 self did not have, what can you adjust? What can you tweak? What have you already evolved through? What did you already have to adapt to? And how can you let that inform these next weeks and these next months ahead? And if nothing else, my friend, maybe you can let a little bit of this reflection process help you give yourself a little bit more grace, a little bit more understanding moving forward as you continue setting new intentions and goals ahead and recognizing, I think that no matter what, every time I get to halfway through the year and every time I get to the end of the year, I am never really where I thought, quote unquote, thought where I was going to be. Even if where you ended up tends to make sense. We usually look back and we're like, well, it makes sense I ended up where I ended up. But there's no way I could have fully known or guessed. There's always that aspect of unpredictability, things that we never could have foreseen, the things that really call on our ability to adapt and be flexible and always evolving and developing. So, like I mentioned, those are some of my favorite ways to do some intentional reflection is look back at your phone and picture gallery. Look back through your digital or physical calendar pages, planners if you keep planners. Again, if you keep any like habit or mood trackers, this is also your monthly reminder from yours truly to look through your finances for the month. If you don't already do that regularly, especially, we try to do it about once a week. It depends on the week, and very often it averages out to like every 2 weeks or so. But we're in our finances, looking at them at least a couple of times a month, bare minimum. This helps you get better at it. If you're a person who avoids that like the plague, I totally get it. We have totally been there. But the whole reason why we get our eyes on our finances a few times a month, every single month, no matter what, is so that we kind of lessen and then eventually, hopefully, eliminate that horrible anxiety or like sinking feeling or just that natural like aversion that you might have, depending on any financial trauma, issues, struggles, challenges you've been through, you grew through, anything like that. So this is your monthly reminder to look back at your habits in your spending, what was coming in, what was going out. Use this information once again with grace and understanding so you can use it to inform you moving forward. This is really, really, really helpful part of the intentional reflection. And then another piece to reflecting through our month that we went through is going through the astrology, especially if you're a person who already tracks astrology or astrological transits, or you're a person who listens to a collection of astrology podcasts, kind of like Moonday Musings. I find that when we get in our routine of listening to astrology forecasts, we rarely go back. We rarely reflect in retrospect. And it can be extremely helpful, both on like a personal meanings and growth level, but also just in learning and studying astrology. When you are learning all of these different mechanics of astrology and how the planets and the signs and the houses and the aspects, it all works together. When you listen to a podcast that is like Moonday and we're talking about the astrology coming up for the week ahead and how you can work with it in your life, and you're listening to it in real time and you're like, this is resonating so much. Think about the light bulbs that go off and the connections that come full circle for you when you listen to that in retrospect, or when you think back about it in retrospect. So one form of reflecting back on astrology is skimming through or listening to some episodes on astrology podcasts or YouTube videos that you've already watched or listened to. But you can also just kind of go through the astrology again, just remind yourself. So I'm going to go through briefly the main astrological highlights that we went through together in June on that Witch podcast on Moonday Musings together. And so we started way back. Our first major transit of the month was June 6th, which was Friday, ruled by Venus. The number 6 is also a Venus-associated number. And on Friday, 6/6, Venus moved into its home sign, its domicile sign, Taurus. A couple of days later, Mercury moved into Cancer. And then the day after that, on Monday the 9th, Jupiter moved into Cancer. And we really started emphasizing lots of Cancerian energy. We started having lots of conversations about Jupiter and Jupiter ruled signs, because after that, we had our full moon in Sagittarius. That was just a couple of weeks ago now. We had our big full moon in Sagittarius right after Jupiter, its ruler, had just moved into Cancer. I loved that episode of Moonday. And then the week after that, Mars ended its chapter in Leo and moved into the sign of Virgo, which is such a shift, such a palpable shift, I will say. So that's one I would also pay attention to. We express Mars through so much of our actions. And so if you can look back on what you were doing, how you were thinking and behaving, what kind of decisions you were making, the things that were motivating you prior to Tuesday the 17th, before Mars moved into Virgo while it was still in Leo, and then kind of reflect a little bit any shifts maybe you've noticed in yourself or others after June 17th, which is when Mars moved into Virgo. Then we had our summer solstice and the beginning of Cancer season. Beginning Friday, June 20th, was also Saturday the 21st, depending on the time zone and where you were located. So Cancer season began, and in the Northern Hemisphere, we had our summer solstice, and in the Southern Hemisphere, this day marked the beginning of the winter solstice. Then we had, just recently, last week, we had our new moon in Cancer. That's super sensitive, intuitive new moon in Cancer. And the day right after that, we struck a chord and started stepping boldly and beginning some journey into Leo energy when Mercury moved into Leo. So take a look. This is one of the reasons why lots of our neighbors, lots of my students in that witch school like to get out their planner or their calendar or take some kind of notes during Moonday Musings, especially the first Moonday of the month. When we do the monthly cosmic overview, this is a very popular, very beneficial time for getting out a digital or physical calendar or planner and jotting down any notes, or simply just marking these astrological transits. You don't even have to write down notes necessarily. You can just make some sort of marking or symbol that these transits are happening on those days. When you get to this episode, when you get to the last moon day of the month and you have those little notations to flip back on, so helpful. And again, so many coming full circle connection moments happen for us this way. This is how we use astrology, my friends, so that we go from just like consuming astrological information and actually applying it into our personal unique lives. So as far as June goes, for me, I really am leaning, I have found over and over and over again, my one of, if not my biggest overarching theme for this year has been community. That was the word that came to me most in January when I was kind of channeling what is my main theme for the year. That's definitely the word that kept finding me the most at that time, and it has certainly followed me and continued resonating with me. And June was so true for this. I felt if you listen to my Moonday episodes, I really felt and leaned into this call of connecting with and nurturing community. I think that there's a lot in our astrological transits reflecting this very collectively for a lot of us. I don't think that I am the only one feeling that way or being called to that type of work at all right now. I think that I'm one of many, many feeling that nurturing other. I think that we have been through some really necessary self and inner time. And I think that it has been setting us up for this time, right now. And I'm really, really exercising that call and trying to continually show up pretty much every day asking, like, how can I continue serving the archetypal concept that is community? How can I continue serving my community here in neighborhood with you, my community within that witch school, my personal community of like friends and loved ones, and then my very physical local community. I'm really trying to ask myself how I can cultivate and nurture those things on all of those different levels. I'm trying to ask myself that just about every single day. And bigger than that, I show up and I've been finding myself asking, like, how can I help others embrace and follow that call too? If that's what they're feeling, if that's what they're also resonating with. There's lots of us that are working through, trauma that we've had associated with others or relationships or community in the past. Or we're very, very, very introverted. Or there's a slew of factors and reasons why cultivating and growing community can feel like a challenge or can feel scary. And I want to be a person who helps people like that feel seen and heard and understood. Know that it's totally normal to feel like weird and awkward, nurturing that especially in Western culture, in a society that doesn't set us up supernaturally to be very community-based. So we're calling on a lot of old traditions or old customs and trying to combine that with modern realism and combining all of that with maybe new ways, new ideas, things that haven't been tried before or tried out in a really long time. So I am feeling so beyond grateful for the community that I do have, for the others that I do have in my life right now. And I'm just feeling very, very honored to be able to be a part of that and a part of all these amazing overlapping communities and circles. And there is a lot every day that I open my phone to, or like my metaphorical newspaper open to, that feels scary, or they're things that really dim or kind of kill hope. And over and over and over and over again, I keep seeing how the direct medicine or the direct weapon or the direct antidote, the direct response to so many of those things is in the way we come together and the strength we find in each other, and the strength we're able to continue building in each other because of that coming together. And that is just fucking inspiring and igniting. So that's where I'm at for June. I want you to make sure that you take some time to reflect back on this month of June for yourself. And again, I challenge you to reflect back on this entire last year so far, these last 6 months or so, and how 2025 is going versus how it started, for example. So that means that you need to pause this episode right here and give yourself that time to really intentionally reflect and then come back later. Please feel free to do that. I'll be here waiting whenever you're ready to come back. And now let's move into this gratitude portion, and let's let our card reading kind of do that for us, or guide us and lead us there. So you can roll out your arms, your shoulders, stretch a little, squeeze your fingers, your toes. Again, you can even just squeeze your eyes open and closed. A simple, intentional breath in and out is always a natural, really effective way to reset and cleanse your energy. Find a nice, comfortable position wherever you are, and when you're ready, you can open yourself up to any messages, any guidance, any answers that you may be needing or seeking at this time. And today we are using the Work Your Light Oracle deck. I find myself using this deck for every single reflection and gratitude episode because it just feels very, very, very fitting for gratitude work. There is a light and airy energy to the deck itself. Oh my gosh. And I love the artwork. This is Danielle Noel is the artist. The creator and author of the deck is Rebecca Campbell. And Danielle Noel does this quintessential kind of light, ethereal, airy, mixed media vibe. And today's card is the Ever Unfolding Rose. We have definitely pulled this card here on Moonday Musings before. I love the Ever Unfolding Rose. I pulled this card for myself multiple times. I've used this deck for a lot, and I've used it for several years now, at least 4. And there are still many cards in here I have not pulled yet, and I have pulled this one so many times, which I just always find super, super fascinating. The phrase on the Ever Unfolding Rose is cracked open. It's happening for you, not to you. And even just hearing that right off the bat, I think it's really easy to see why this card has been coming up a lot here on Moonday, here for myself. Here's what the guidebook has to say for the Ever Unfolding Rose. The challenge of life is to keep your heart open when you most want to close it. To let life crack you open, to open through hurt and loss, to allow what is falling away to fall away. Being human is a courageous act. A life well lived is full of losses and tragedies, as much as triumphs and adventures. Wherever you find yourself at the moment, life is coaxing you to keep your heart open no matter how much it hurts, to continually unfold, to let life crack you open. Perhaps you are going through a difficult time right now. Instead of cursing the difficulty, see it as a blessing. To open yourself up to the truth that perhaps as hard as it may be, life is happening for you, not to you. And one day, in the not too distant future, you may just bless the thing that broke you down and cracked you open because the world needs you open. Now is the time to go gently, to treat yourself like a tender, sweet baby, to wrap yourself in a blanket and trust that the mother has cradled you in her arms. The seas may not all be smooth sailing, but you are safe and you are held. One day, not too far from today, you will look back at the transformation and be blown away by the poetry of life. Everything is going to be okay. Do you see why it's always such a nice reminder when we get the Ever Unfolding Rose? The Ever Unfolding Rose is so astrological to me. It's so similar to the metaphor of the layers and layers and layers in astrology. And those layers and layers and layers in astrology are representative of the layers and layers and layers of our existence, of our universe. And that there is always further we can zoom out. There's always an even bigger picture to see eventually, with enough time, with enough space, with enough experience. Those layers keep peeling and coming back, that ever unfolding rose. I love how this really punctuates and highlights this this aspect of opening ourselves up to community. Because I'll tell you something. There are powers that be that really benefit from us hating each other as much as possible and breaking each other down even further. And one of the most radical things that we can do is care for each other and not let ourselves become jaded by our experience and instead become educated by our experience. Become wiser for our experience and humbled by our experience. And let this help us relate to and connect with one another and lift each other up. So, I am beyond grateful for you, my neighbor. Thank you for your time today and every day. The energy that you bring to this community is completely unique to you, so necessary, so valid, and so incredibly valued. I hope that I get to see you again here in our neighborhood. And of course, until then, make sure that you stay safe, that you keep having fun, and of course, stay magical out there, my friend.